George Washington's baldly erect
Why
cock.
does everyone start by saying something right when I hit record? Anyways, hello everyone. Welcome to week 2 of the Friday Film Club. This week I have my special guest. I do position my hands like this. BreadFox101.
I am here so I don't have to pay a fine.
We're here talking about the cult classic 2004 film Shaun of the Dead, directed by Edgar Wright. Uh, and if you are listening to this on Spotify, you can find the video version on my YouTube channel. That's Sir Galvanium on YouTube. And this is streamed live every Friday on twitch.tv/Sir Galvanium. So to start off, Bread.
Ah,
Why did you pick this movie?
because Shaun of the Dead's amazing. Like, do you want... Honest reason is I've seen this movie almost 1,000 times, and it's still just as good watching it every time.
So you've seen this movie 1,000 times, you say?
No,
Now,
well, that's an exaggeration, but...
now 1,000 times. No, this is
But
a.
roughly, I have generally seen this movie probably about 53 times.
Would you
Like
say
an
that it's one of your
actual number.
favorite movies?
Yes. It's actually not the favorite movie. I just thought it's really hard to talk about my favorite movie on stream and on Spotify.
So, given that this is a movie that you very much enjoy, what would you say is your favorite scene from the movie?
I've got a couple. I'm never really someone that has a dead-on favorite, but
Then go ahead and just shoot them out.
I like the scene where they're having the argument about whether they're going to kill his mum or not, because it is quite the genuine hard. It's a genuine emotional scene in what is otherwise a comedy movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
Actually, that's a really good scene to point out because a lot of the time, it's so much easier for people to connect with characters in a comedy, which allows scenes like that to hit a lot harder. Because
yeah,
in a drama, people are going to be. Characters in dramas are harder to relate to because we don't often get to see that bit of levity in their lives that makes them human. Whereas in a comedy, that levity is persistent throughout the whole film, which makes those darker moments hit harder. I think that is a very good scene.
I mean with the scene as well, like, you see this poor. I mean, she played Sean's mother fucking amazingly, but I cannot remember the actor because I'm horrible with names. She plays Sean's mother amazingly. This sort of too nice and too shy woman that sits there meekly throughout the movie, for most of the movie at least, gets bitten, doesn't say a fucking word. Gets bitten by the neighbor. I think it was the man in pajamas. I think that's the guy who bites him, not
Yes,
her
the man in the
husband.
pajamas.
Yeah, and it's revealed that she's been bitten. It's slightly obvious
Yes,
when
it's
when you look at the movie.
it is a very established trope, so it's very
So
obvious.
when it does happen, I wasn't shocked for the first time at least.
Mm-hmm.
But it, like, even then you're like, oh no, because then it comes down to the predicament that happens in every movie. Who has to kill this character that we've established is important to most of the cast?
Mm-hmm.
Who has to shoot them? And obviously, it always falls on the one person that you don't want it to be. And obviously, Shaun has to shoot his mother.
Mm-hmm.
But irrespective of that trope, what they did was they made the character that is meant to be the antagonist to most of the situations, good old Daniel, point the gun first. And then it swaps quite nonchalantly to Shaun having to shoot his poor mum. And they show it, which is something I wasn't ready for. Because that hurt the first time. I was quite sad. There's a lot of sad moments in the near the end of the movie. But
Yeah,
I
I really think
they do.
with zombie films especially, having so much of the main cast die, it's something that you expect, but still when like you connect with them, like watching them on screen through this whole journey, like in every zombie movie, you're bound to expect like 90% of the cast to die, unless you're watching a serialized show like The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't make it hit any less hard when certain characters do inevitably kick the bucket.
Because the idea of a zombie movie is here is a group of people, sometimes ordinary, sometimes they're meant like with certain skills that will help them out during the end, which is usually something like in a TV show, because they've got more episodes to shoot, so more people have to live through it. But normally it's a bunch of normal people dealing with this very sudden realization that there is a plague going on. They don't know if it's airborne, bacterial, bitten. Normally it's a bite because it's a zombie movie, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's aerial, and now they have to live for what is approximately 6 months, because that's how long it takes for most humans to decay, in a world without the amenities that most people would have. And that's why I enjoy zombie movies in general, and Shaun of the Dead is, in my opinion, one of the best. Because it does that whole trope thing. It's got shots that I'm gonna link it to Hot Fuzz because again, it's a movie that Simon Pegg starred in and was
Simon
a lot of
Pegg,
the
Nick
tropes.
Frost, Edgar Wright, the whole
Yeah, it's
the whole
it's
gang's
there
there.
sort of. It's just one of those movies that I feel does the zombie movie justice after it was done so many times by so many other movies.
Well, part of what makes it so Shaun of the Dead can do zombie movie like so well is because a lot of it is um, illusion, pastiche, and parody of the films that came before it. I think specifically, like even lines like when Nick Frost yells into the phone, "We're coming to get you, Barbara," uh,
Yeah.
that was lifted directly from George Romero's Night of the Living Dead.
A lot of the stuff is lifted from like Night of the Living Dead, because I mean that's the movie everyone bases a zombie movie off. It's the movie to beat, so to speak.
It is the zombie movie, yes.
Because when you say zombie movie, you say Night of the Living Dead, and then you go down the list of the ones you could remember. But everyone remembers Night of the Living Dead, and if you don't really watch a lot of movies. Because I would have picked Night of the Living Dead for this spot, because I was always going to pick a zombie movie. I love a good zombie movie. But
Uh, I think that a really cool thing about how Shaun of the Dead does zombie movies is that a lot of the zombies that you see in the opening of the movie are seen as just random passerbyers and people on the
that is one of my
streets.
favorite scenes from that movie as well. Because it's almost a shot-for-shot remake of Simon Pegg going the exact same way, not realizing a fucking thing. Because it's a mundane, it's a routine, and you can see where like he'd missed stuff. The one thing I didn't like about that was the hole and punched in the car when he walks past and trips over it again with the guy washing it. I always think, yeah, I'd fucking notice that. But then again, you don't know until the situation begins.
And going into that scene specifically, I can't help but feel bad for the homeless guy with the dog because
Oh, well, yeah.
he's still holding the leash and it makes me cry every time. But you
I
can
want to know where
hear
that
a
dog
dog
went.
well, you can hear a dog barking from somewhere off screen. So I like to think that the dog managed to survive the whole night. And
Oh, I like to think the dog became a resistance fighter in my mind.
I like to think the dog survived the whole night and was adopted by a lovely couple who raised him
A
until
lovely
it's
old couple who took him for all the walks because that's all they did in their old age. They had the pension. He got all the treats he needed.
because they just needed something to cope with the trauma. And then
Mm.
after the dog spent the rest of its life happily ever after. And then
They didn't. I don't like to think of dogs in zombie movies because what's it? What was that? I Am Legend.
I Am Legend, yeah.
Ooh, that scene hurts every time.
I think that but having that dog there and having the homeless man as a zombie still clutching to the leash of the leash, as far as I know, didn't look blood-stained. So it's very likely that the dog
It was ripped off. It was torn. The leash.
Yeah, so it's very
It's
likely
not
that
like
the dog just wriggled out because he was still
Yeah.
holding the leash itself. But I think that does bring into question, like it does point out that if this were to actually happen, so much of like stuff that never really gets explored in these films would be happening. Like, what happens to all the pets? Are people really gonna immediately know that it's going on? Like, even in Shaun of the Dead, when zombies are walking the streets,
Yeah, people have no idea.
people
People just
just
think that someone's ill. I mean,
yeah,
one of the best scenes of pointing that out is Mary in the garden. They just think she's drunk
yeah. And
until she falls on, and they thought they murdered her. To be fair,
even after Sean's stepfather gets bit, and he gets even when he gets bit the second time, like when after they're trying to rescue them,
yeah,
they still
they're
it
still
still
trying
takes
to
them a bit.
stop the bleeding. They because he's still with them.
Yeah, it's
And
still
if I'm being honest, he wouldn't be with me. I would have said my goodbyes and I would have fucking left him.
it still takes characters like Barbara a significant amount of time to realize, oh shit, something is going on.
Something's going on, and it's. I mean, obviously the Winchester's going to get brought up at some point here. The Winchester and the scenes that follow. It's a good half of the movie, but everything that leads up, so to speak, to that bit in the Winchester is, I think, just set up for everything that goes wrong in the Winchester.
I think that the Winchester is done really well. The fact that they're stuck there, it's almost like they're
Well, they
stuck on
foreshadow it, don't they?
yeah. Well, they're isolated, stuck in this metaphorical island with no
Yeah.
escape. Like, they're surrounded by an ocean of zombies, and how that isolated stick 5 people in a room together. Some of them don't like each other. Others, they all have their complex interpersonal relationships. It's really great for exploring that kind of situation.
One thing I like about the Winchester is every time it's mentioned, it's always I'll die in the Winchester. I will never end up. We're always going to the Winchester. I don't want to live life in the Winchester. And all these subtle hints to that's where they're gonna have to make their last stand because it's brought up so many times, in so many different ways.
And
Like
now,
Liz
Brett,
doesn't want to end up there.
as a British
And-
person,
Yes,
do you have your own Winchester? A place that
I do. I have my own pub that I go to. I'm off there tomorrow before I stream. They don't have a gun above the fireplace. They've
if
got a
there
pool
were a
table,
zombie
though.
outbreak, would you go to that pub?
No, God no. The people there are horrible, and they would definitely get bitten so quickly. I do have a zombie survival plan because I'm weird and I like to think about that sort of thing.
I do also have a zombie survival plan. It involves a gun and a single bullet.
Yeah, Max has told me his, but I want to give it a go. I'm weird. Like if a zombie apocalypse did happen, I'd be like, oh, I'll give it a crack. I'll give it a go. Part of me wants
Yeah.
to go to a zoo. I don't know why. That's where I want to make my stand.
giraffe.
Look at the zombie gorilla. It's cute. He's gonna tear my face off.
Oh my
but it's
gosh,
cute.
regular gorillas are already aggressive. Imagine a zombie gorilla.
The issue is, I know exactly what would happen. I'd join a biker gang. It would happen. I know I would. I would be that dickhead from Walking Dead. What was his name? I generally can't remember. The one that gets blown up when they do the
I've
stuff.
never seen The Walking Dead, so I don't know.
Oh, he did a full scene, but like he acts sort of how I would act. I wouldn't be as murdery, I don't think.
Now, one more thing I do want to bring up is the parallel group, the one that's going the opposite
Yeah.
direction. The ones
They
that
all
are
die.
the
They
ones that
all
are
die.
no, because the fucking Sean's friend, the lady who was leading them, she appears again at the end.
She's the only one to survive. It hints to it when she was like, at least someone made it through, implying that her entire group was murdered.
Oh.
I only noticed it today as well, believe it or not. I've seen this movie so many times, I was like, oh fuck, they're all dead.
I'm
just had
sure
this
that
sudden
the directors
realization.
commented on it here. I'm gonna look this up while we continue talking. But I think
actually gonna
that's
read
an
just a quick
interesting.
comment.
I think that's a very interesting like parallel having.
Yeah,
these,
it's the exact same group, isn't it? It's
having the
beautiful,
exact
I love
same
it.
group, but they just seem more reasonable because they're not heading to a pub.
Yeah, no, they're heading to like an actual like military outpost. And I mean, something must have gone wrong along the way because they do. I'm almost certain it is mentioned near the end. She's like, at least someone makes it when she comes with a military vehicle. Because I think the same thing happened to. Obviously, the idea is it's parallel, and I generally think the same thing as they got to the military outpost. Half of them were dead, and other half were bitten, and they obviously. As you see by the end, the military is not sparing anyone, and they do generally cull a lot of people. I do like the solution though. Put them as trolley pushers, and
Look,
it's just a
you
great
know, in the
throwaway
real
joke, and I
world,
love
that
it.
if zombies were a thing and they figured out how to contain them, that they would like be used as
they put
menial
them to
labor.
used. Yeah, no, and I mean, obviously, I mean, as a spoiler warning here, because I'm just gonna say it.
Well, no need a spoiler warning if
Yeah,
they
it's
didn't
about
watch
the
the
movie.
this is
Look,
literally
I've
discussing it.
been trying my best not to spoil the new Spider-Man movie, and I have to say spoiler warning for every single bit of everything. But like, obviously Nick in the shed at the end, that killed me the first time I watched it. Because I was like, I didn't even think about what happened to Nick near the end. I just assumed he dies, torn apart by the zombies, like he said he was gonna, in such a nonchalant way, fag in his mouth, gun in hand. Just yeah, see
Speaking
you
of
later.
being torn apart by the zombies, when I can't remember his name, but the dude with the glasses,
Dan.
when he just
Dan.
gets ripped apart, that is
Oh yeah, no, it's great, all practical and everything. I love
yeah,
the.
that
I love the
is
way it's done.
an incredibly well done effect.
And by the way, it was a Cumberland sausage they used for his intestines.
Ah,
I'm not kidding. They reveal this, and they're like, we got Cumberland sausages because they look more real. What, I like Cumberland sausages. I just thought it'd be funny to mention.
I mean, you know, if you're gonna,
I know a lot about this movie. Regrettably, too much. Tasty, thank you. One thing I do want to mention:
go ahead.
the scene with the vinyls.
Oh yes, the vinyls.
That is again another one of my because a lot of this movie, I know you want to see a favorite scene from me, but every scene is just shot so perfectly for me that I don't think I'll ever pick a favorite. But the vinyls is fucking close. Them skimming through vinyls that he doesn't want to throw because they're all limited edition, and then the Batman soundtrack. Fucking, I think it was Cher. Was it Cher? I don't remember. But the fact that for some reason they think that's going to do any damage to a zombie.
Yes, I think it was funny when they smashed the first record and the zombie didn't, like, it still had record bits in its face, but it was still moving.
Like, it did nothing. All you did was annoy
it. Did nothing, and then they decided to try to do it again.
I mean, it's kind of mostly their plan for every bit of that movie is it could work. in the smallest chance it could work. And then
Now
the scene.
I do
Oh
want
no,
to
no, you go first.
say that so this movie was directed by Edgar Wright, who
Yeah.
is an incredibly well-renowned director. Uh, in the scene leading up to them realizing things are going on with the zombie in the backyard,
Yeah.
Shaun picks up a cornetto at the convenience store, and that's the reason why this Hot Fuzz and The World's End have been dubbed the Cornetto trilogy.
Yes, but it wasn't Shaun of the Dead. I think it came first. Was it, or was it
Shaun
Hot
of the Dead was
Fuzz?
2004, Hot Fuzz was 2007, The World's End was 2013.
Oh right, okay, I see, and that's why. Yeah,
Yes,
no,
Edgar Wright
there's a
specific
reason they're called the Cornetto trilogy because the
Edgar
Cornetto is at least mentioned once.
Edgar Wright has said that he has specifically put in one cornetto in each of the three movies,
I
different
love it,
flavor of cornetto. Shaun of the Dead had the strawberry cornetto
and
with a
it
red
was
wrapper.
mint. It was mint for the Hot Fuzz, and I can't. I think it was caramel for the.
Hot Fuzz was vanilla. Mint
That
was
would be the
World's
chocolate one,
End.
right? Yeah. Uh, but I love it. I love it. It's great. It's just small things like that. Like you see the husband before he gets into the door, the husband with no arm. You see him twice before he even shows up on screen, and is an integral bit of that first kill.
Mm.
And obviously, you can see Nick enjoys it. Good old Nick Frost. But even then, like it sort of defines both characters in that one bit. Shaun panics, Nick gets on with it, but Nick is sort of childish about it.
Yeah, like Nick Frost's character, every time that every time something is going wrong, he just thinks about what's the coolest thing he could do next. Like
Yeah,
he in when they're driving the car, when they're going to drive the first car, he says,
yeah.
"Ooh, can I drive?" Because he thinks it'd be fun to drive a car he's not supposed to. Then
And then
when
he
it's
crashes it, obviously,
then
because
he
he's trying to
crashes it
do.
to specifically to be able to drive a cooler car.
Yeah, because he wants to drive the Jag. And obviously, Phil's in not Phil. Is it Phil? No, it is Phil. Phil is in no position at that point to say no to Nick, which obviously spurs him wanting to shoot the gun. Let's go. He just does everything so childish.
And
Obviously,
he plays the game that alerts all the
yeah, I was going to
zombies.
say he plays the casino, which obviously draws the zombies in.
And then
Because
it really makes the ending where he decides, you know what, you two go on without me. Really shows that despite
he
all
grew
those
up a little
actions,
bit.
he did grow up a tiny bit in the end.
Because you like his character because he's childish. You like it
Yes.
because he's like, oh, I'm gonna fucking make a Molotov cocktail because it's funny.
But I think that casino game was the first time had to deal directly with the consequences of what he'd done in the
Yes,
movie, because that was the
it was
first
the
time
consequences
anyone
to his
told him
actions.
no. They specifically shouted at him and told him that he was an idiot, and that was what sparked him to have to grow up.
I mean, the seeds of doubt start slowly because obviously, you have, oh, what's his name? The guy that dies naked, and I just can never remember his name.
Their other flatmate.
Their other flatmate. You have him. He's telling. They have the argument in the kitchen to begin with, and then they have a bigger argument later when he's come home drunk and he's got work in the morning. Then they get to the Winchester, and it's a full blown, genuine, heartfelt argument and grievance, which is then played off as a comedy thing because he's shouted in front of all the sea of zombies, and now that Simon has to deal with his actions. I'm saying the actor's name instead of Shaun. Now that Shaun has to deal with his actions, Nick slightly grows up. And then he causes the problem and then has to fully grow up. and then he tries to deal with the situation. But then again, he's still a child in his head, so he's like, "I'll throw a Molotov cocktail. That'll do it." In this giant wood pub with curtains and everything.
Now, we're about a third of the way through our time for today, so I just want to, real quick, I have a game. I have
Go
two
for it.
reviews here. One of them is a 1/2 star review on Letterboxd. The other is a 5-star review on Letterboxd. Now,
Okay.
I'm going to read both of them to you, and you're going to tell me which you think is which.
Right.
Yeah, if your only options are Sign of the Times, Purple Rain, and Batman, you're definitely going to use Batman as a weapon. But surely you've got worse albums than Batman to toss at zombies. And then the second review, British
Yeah.
People.
Ooh, I'm gonna say the 5-star was British People, and the 1-star was the vinyl.
The vinyl was the 5 stars.
Oh no, I thought you were throwing me off. I love that in British People. I would have given it a 5, but British People, so 1. No, China number 1.
Okay, and I have a couple fun facts from IMDb. Keep in mind, IMDb is editable by everyone, so this might not be entirely true.
Yes.
But according to IMDb, Quentin Tarantino dubbed this as one of his top 20 movies made since 1992.
I actually think there's an interview where he says that, and that's the only reason I know that one.
It just doesn't, like, it's kind of odd, right? Like, Quentin Tarantino. This doesn't
I know
strike
why.
me as a Tarantino flick, you know?
I think I know why he likes it though, because the way those like quick shots where it's mundane stuff but looks cool, like where he's spreading the jam on the toast, and then he's making a coffee. I think Quentin Tarantino likes doing quick shots as well, and he does a lot of the shots done in this movie are done slightly different, but are still kind of present in most of Quentin's movies. I think that's why he likes it.
Would you watch a Quentin Tarantino remake of Shaun of the Dead?
I don't think I could watch a remake of Shaun of the Dead. You will never be able to top the original. I think it almost beats Night of the Living Dead, but it doesn't beat it because it was the first zombie movie and it was amazing. Let's be honest. For the times, it was amazing.
Say 20 years from now, in the year 2042,
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino is like, for my last movie, I'm going to redo Shaun of the Dead, but do it American.
I don't know if you've seen The American In-Betweeners, but I feel like that's how
I don't
that
know
would
if
go.
you've seen The American The Office.
Oh, that's always your fallback, isn't it? Oh, we did The Office better. Yeah, you did. Fair enough. I'll give you it. But everything else you fuck up, don't you? But you have The Office to fall back on.
Now, Edgar Wright directed this movie in 2004.
Yes.
Edgar Wright has also directed a lot of incredible movies since, such as Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. Obviously, those two are part of the Cornetto trilogy.
The Cornetto trilogy.
But did you know that Edgar Wright was also going to direct the first Ant-Man movie for Marvel Studios before he left the project due to creative differences? But a lot of the boneworks of his original script, in fact, he's even still credited for the movie, are still in Ant-Man.
Do you know how I know this? A friend of mine that I work with is obsessed with movies. I mean, he watches them constantly. And I was talking about the Marvel movies and how much I liked Ant-Man, surprisingly, for what it was. And he was like, do you know the guy that made Hot Fuzz? And I was like, yeah, I know him. Yeah, he did most of the work for that. And I was like, that's probably why I like it. But that's the only reason I know. I know surprisingly amounts of weird shit about movies. I'm almost certain the Quentin Tarantino likes feet thing is real.
Oh, yeah, no. Quentin Tarantino notoriously has a foot fetish. One last bit of IMDb trivia. Nick Frost allegedly kept his genitals shaved throughout the entire production to create a genuine need to scratch.
Yeah, that's true. Also, one of the farts was real. I'm not like the first. I think it's the first. The first reaction to the fart is a real fart, and and they kept it in the script. I think just because it's properly. It's a proper fart.
Okay. Moving on to the next point of discussion. Hold on, where's my sticky note? There it is. What character would you say you think is the most like you?
I don't. Because obviously I want to say Shaun, but let's be honest, I'm not Shaun. I don't have a girlfriend in the sense that there we go. I'm not Shaun. Honestly, I'd have to say Nick Frost, just in the sense that I'm a little bit childish and I would enjoy it a little too much. But I'm not as stupid as he is in the movie, but I'm pretty stupid. Like, I would get bored and probably turn something on or fuck something up. The issue is, I know the people that I would have to go save are just way stupider, so I would win in the end.
You're the Nick Frost character, but then you go to rescue people that are even more the Nick Frost character.
Oh no, they're like even worse. Like some of them are Daniel levels of stupid mixed with their own narcissism. And I just like I'm not gonna go rescue anyone. I think I'm just gonna go see if I can pick up someone.
So at the end of the film,
Yes.
when the military storms in, they save everyone. And then it cuts to Shaun, who obviously has Nick Frost as a zombie locked up in his shed.
Mhm.
Would you be fine with being locked up in a shed if you had been turned into a zombie?
The idea of them is they don't have consciousness anymore, though.
But he clearly still does have some level of himself
Mm.
retained because he's still playing video games.
The question is, realistically, like, if he's conscious, is it wrong to kill him at that point? But he has to be locked up because obviously he'll start another plague of infected.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the one issue with this
Well,
movie.
It seems like they have it mostly under control because they do have zombies just as menial labor forces.
The question is, did they find a cure? Because if they found a cure, but if you're already turned, there's nothing much you can do.
It might
But
be
they've
like
got
a limited
preventative
time
measures.
cure, like a vaccine for the virus.
Think about it. Think about it as rabies, because you can, when you catch it early enough, there is a cure for it.
Yeah.
But if you're already near the ending stage of it, there is no cure.
Yeah. Now, with him playing video games with the zombie, actually throughout the whole movie, you can see that people kind of retain, all the zombies retain a little bit about themselves. Like the shopkeeper, he is holding his hand out for payment.
Yeah, because he wants the money. Yeah.
He wants the payment. Yeah. The
little boy kicks the ball.
The boy
Again?
kicks the ball. The homeless man is still clutching onto his dog's leash.
Who else was it? Lady's still pushing a pram, as you can see in one of the movies. I don't know if there was a baby in it, and I'm fucking terrified to find out, because zombie babies creep me the shit out.
That really raises the ethical question of, after all of these, after all the tragedy, is it still ethically okay to kill them? Because obviously, in the heat of the moment,
you gotta
take them out. But if you're a crowd of soldiers going through, mowing them down just to clear out the space, because they didn't know that Shaun and his girlfriend were there, they just stopped to clear out the crowd of zombies.
Yeah. Well, as it's shown by them getting in a firing line then going off, and no one other than the person they met before goes up to them and says, "Are you okay?" Because there's obviously no communications.
And so that kind of raises the ethical question, like, is it okay for them to do that? Something that like zombie films that where they like demonstrate even a semblance of intelligence, you have to wonder,
It's.
is
I
that
think in the heat of the moment, if you want my opinion on it, which I'm assuming you do, because why else did you bring me on here? Um, the only reason to kill them at the start is obviously they're a danger to others and yourself, which means I think it's justifiable in a sense. But as soon as it's all controlled, and they still hold that small smidget of humanity, like Nick still wants to play games, obviously the money and the dog, there are small routines that they still remember. So the question is, do you keep them alive to see if you can find a cure for it? Do you keep them alive because it's ethical? I think because it's a large question
how
for
much
not a lot
intelligence
of.
do they need before it becomes unethical?
I think if you can recognize yourself, because that's one of the things that humans can do, that we believe that we have a soul. It's the fact that we can recognize ourselves and our own mortality. If a zombie can recognize itself in a mirror and its own mortality and what it's become, it's so unethical to kill that. Because you can see the zombies sort of piecing it together as they go on, and they go up to sound, but they're not just running at the sound. They're not like what's it? The zombies from what are the
Uh,
zombies that don't eat the sick from World War Z?
World War Z. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they just run at sound. They're just mindless creatures running at sound for sustenance.
Mm-hmm.
But in Shaun of the Dead, they're turning around slowly. They're analyzing their own situation and whether they just run at it or they go. So it's a question of, is it just like the brain shuts off for most of it and you keep the core functions up? Or is it like a parasite in some other movies where it's something else takes control and you lose every bit of humanity? The question is it a disease, a virus? What
Well,
sort of zombification is it?
at the end, they do get into it just ever so slightly. It be the virus being caused by toxic chemicals. They just don't get to go
They
very
never
far in that
truly give you
explanation.
what it is.
Yeah, early in the film, they mention something like a probe from space, and that makes you maybe think, oh, maybe it's something to do with
Oh, it's a
space. Then at the
space
end of
age
the
disease.
film, they mention on a news report, scientists have discovered that it was caused by toxic chemicals
And then
used
it
in,
cuts off.
and then it cuts off. Yeah,
And then you've got the one where it's like the one saying it was first transferred by a rabies-riddled monkey are false, but then again, is it truly false? Is that exactly what happened?
yeah.
They leave it open-ended for you to decide because at the end, it's just social commentary on a situation. It's not really about the zombies. It's about the characters that you find in the zombie movie.
Yeah. And now one thing that I do want to, speaking of the ending, there is a talk show, a daytime talk show, of a woman who is keeping her now zombified husband locked in a cage, and that's something that's seen kind of controversial.
Hmm.
But then it immediately goes to show Shaun keeping Nick Frost locked in the shed, which I think
Yeah.
that's kind of funny because it shows that, like, you know, what
He's
Shaun's
weird for
doing
doing
is
it.
kind of fucking weird.
I mean, he's a weird guy, let's be honest. What I like about it is obviously this movie you could definitely have a sequel. There is always a sequel to be
There was
made.
actually a planned sequel to Shaun of the Dead where they're
I'm happy there isn't though.
instead of zombies, they were going to do vampires and
Oh, that would have been fun. I
call
would
it
have fucking watched that.
From Dusk Till Shaun.
Ah, that would have been amazing. I would have watched that. I really would have. Because if it's made even half as decent as Shaun of the Dead, it's still going to be amazing. Because World's End is by far the weakest out of Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, but is in no means a bad movie. I love it. It's just slightly weaker than others. And with the the effects they can do now and the visuals they could do now, they could make that movie fucking amazing.
The sequel to Shaun of the Dead is actually a poster for it. Is featured in the Spider-Verse movie in Miles Morales' universe, which is
Oh, so they actually made it. Oh, that's an
yeah.
amazing little callback. I like that.
I will see if I can pull up a picture of it for the video. Yes, here we go. But I think that it's a very interesting premise to change it from zombies to go to vampires.
I mean, I think they would have gone zombies, vampires, and then if they were really strapped for content, invading aliens. Let's be honest. And they already did one of those. I mean, am I alright to talk about both Hot Fuzz and World's End in the Cornetto trilogy as a whole?
Yeah, because I think it's important to like.
Because they're clearly like the idea is they're sort of set in the same kind of world where everything goes wrong.
They're spiritual trilogy rather than a direct trilogy.
They all both star the Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, which are just absolute couple goals in every movie they do. But you could tell, because Hot Fuzz is this buddy cop film about Sergeant Nicholas Angel, who just really they go overboard with it about a town that's like shrouded in secrecy that kill anything that's wrong with it to win a small talent show that says they're the nicest town. Obviously, Shaun of the Dead, a zombie outbreak amongst the normal people that really have no idea what they're doing. And World's End's just, I want to relive my childhood vicariously and fix some issues with some old friends, and there just happens to be an invading alien force that's trying to kill us.
I brought up the From Dusk Till Dawn poster on my stream.
Oh, please, please just send that here so I can see it.
All of you video watchers, I can DM it to you real quick.
Just link it in the
I gotta
Discord.
keep Discord open, so I gotta get it on my phone. But From Dusk Till Dawn was indeed featured in Spider-Verse movie. And interestingly, since, Nick Frost is a zombie, I like how in the poster, the fake poster, he is still a zombie.
If they had to make a sequel to that, they had to make him a vampire as well, so he's a vampire zombie. I just want them to add shit to Nicholas's character. He's a werewolf, vampire, alien zombie.
He's a werewolf, vampire, alien zombie that
he's a Dark Souls
can
boss.
explode on command.
He's a Dark Souls boss. There's like, when you play Dark Souls and they're just these exalted, like, Edelf, the eaten, what's it, the feasting angel, and you're like, that sounds weird. Nicholas, the undead dead. Ooh, fight that. Although I think it would have been sadder instead of him having to kill his mum, him having to kill Nicholas, because he's still kind of clearly From Dusk Till Dawn. That's amazing. Oh, that's beautiful. I forgot how kind of fat he is in that suit.
Anyways,
but is that us done? I don't know when we're done.
We still got about 15 minutes left on time.
Let's fill that 15 minutes. Got any resulting questions you want to ask me beforehand?
Does anyone in either of our chats, because Brett is streaming and I'm also streaming, live with Twitch TV/Sir Galvanium every Friday for all you VOD watchers / audio listeners.
I'm going to shout out if you're going to nick it from me. Is BreadFox101. You can find me on TikTok, Twitter, streaming most, if not every day, around 7 p.m. my time. I play a lot of For Honor and get angry. Max plays a lot of everything and gets less angry. Although he is playing Jump Night, and that isn't
Jump
going
King.
so great at the minute.
But yeah, just gonna take that opportunity to plug. Consider that your ad for today. But if anyone in either of our chats has anything they want to say about the movie, now is the time to do so, so we can talk about audience thoughts and what you guys think about
A
what we've
lot
said
of
so
people
far.
have left since since I started. I don't know if anyone's there. But I mean, I've got questions. I
Yeah,
always have questions.
if you have any questions, go ahead.
My question is, if you had to, like, if the plan wasn't one bullet and a gun, what would be the first thought that goes through your head, other than, yeah, I should probably end it now. Like,
Well,
what's
if there was an actual zombie outbreak, my first thought would be because right now I'm in my college apartment with my big ass baby Yoda.
Oh, you're fucked, mate. I'm sorry.
But my first instinct would be, I've got to get home.
Hmm.
And then once I'm at home, then that point, it's all fine and dandy. My home is in a rural area.
You live in bumfuck nowhere.
Yeah, I live in the sticks of the sticks.
So I mean, I've thought about this a lot because I don't know if you've noticed this about me, but I have this weird personality where I like to think about things a little too intensely. Like, so if I was gonna kill someone, how would I do it? But
I think we've all thought about killing people and how we would
No,
do
we've
it.
all thought, how would we get away with it? And then
Yeah.
we realized solemnly that it's
I mean,
too
obviously
much work,
the
and there's
answer
no
is to
point.
remove all their teeth and feed the body to pigs.
No.
You grind their teeth and boil them into a broth and then give that to the pigs too.
No. What you do? I mean, usually pigs are one of the good answers to this, but like obviously, find two different oceans, buy a boat, drop one half in the other ocean, drop the other half in the other ocean. Forget that they exist. You
in my
have to
chat,
murder a
Frosted
random
is saying-
person that isn't with you.
In my chat, Frosted is saying, "Ice
Oh?
solves everything." This is Frosted Fricks, our guest from last week.
Big time
Ice solves
streamer.
everything. No murder
Oh, big
weapon.
time.
You're right. Just stab him with a sheet of ice. Anyways, we're getting off topic here.
Yeah, we're getting off to murder. Anyway, zombie apocalypse. The first thing I do, obviously, check the family's okay because I still live at home. Then I'd have to make sure my dog was okay.
Oh my
And-
gosh, my dogs would be crazy.
The issue is, I don't know if I could take my dog with me. I don't know if I could subject my dog to that. I also don't know if I could kill him. It's one of the most depressing thoughts I have ever had is, oh fuck, I'll have to end it. The night I'll have to I Am Legend my own dog.
Ooh.
It's a horrible thought.
Would you? Okay. Actually, speaking of, so in the movie, Simon Pegg has to fucking kill his own mother. And that's after he's finally accepted that his stepfather was
Oh yeah,
essentially
no,
his
the
father.
speech with it that his stepfather generally gives him this heartfelt speech and has to who's already dead, he's turning. There's no getting away from it. He realizes that Shaun panics. I mean, that's most of the movie. Shaun panics. and he has this genuine horrible like I finally realize he's my dad and I've just watched him die. Oh fuck.
But if you were in that same situation where you just lost a family member and now your only remaining family member is sitting there in front of you about to turn into a zombie, would you be able to pull the trigger?
I think I would because I want them to do it to me if I turned. I'd want someone to shoot me before I turned. Because then it's more like, do you want... Like, think about it for 1 second. If someone asked you, I won't ever be the same person I was. Even if they make a cure, I will have had to suffer so much. Can you just end it now so I have the last glimmer of my own humanity left? You do it because it's someone you care about asking for what is essentially a mercy killing. Because I don't want to say I'm gonna go into a little bit of a deep thought here. My granddad died of cancer. I couldn't go to the hospital. I said my goodbyes to him a little early on than most. And he asked why, and I said, because I want to remember you the way you were, not the person you're going to become. It's not that I don't love him. He's one of my heroes. But I never wanted to see him the way he was. Because it's not him. What it is because what cancer does is it just makes people, these corpses that walk around. If he had pulled through, I would have been happy, but I didn't want to subject myself to that. And that's why I think I could do it, is that I don't want to see someone that I care about suffer any more than they have to.
Yeah, I think that's a completely understandable thought. A couple of years ago, I had a family member, an older family member, who had an unfortunate fall and slowly, basically turned into a shell of who they used to be. And by the time that I got to say goodbye, it was
They're
like
not the same
talking to
person
a
anymore.
wall. It's not even. It's like they weren't even a person anymore. They were just someone desperately trying to cling on, a body with a beating heart, desperately trying to stay beating.
Well, I recently had a conversation with my mother. She was like, because we were watching something on telly, and she was like, if I ever get that bad, what are you gonna do with me? And I was like, I'd make sure you get the help you needed, but I don't think I could ever put you in a home. And she's like, why wouldn't you put me in a home? I like, it would be less of a burden on you. I was like, no, you've cared for me like 21 years. Least I could do was help you in your last years stay afloat. Because what I think she'll go into one of those flats with a red cord that basically says, and granted, my grandma lives in one of those flats. The only time she pulled it is because there was a wasp in there and she couldn't get it out. And I didn't. She pulled it and she called my dad, and she's talking to my dad. And she's like, I can't get it out. I've pulled the cord and everything. She was like, you're only meant to pull the cord if you fall, right? She's like, how am I going to pull the cord? I've fallen. Which is a genuine issue that she brings up. And I was just like, well, you don't pull the cord. The nice man has other people to go to. He's like, yeah, but I don't want the wasp in my house. She's a lovely woman. You'd love her.
Now we're coming up on time, so to end on just a bit of a lighter note.
Oh yeah,
I have a question.
Very quickly.
I have a question from Solomon in my chat. Yeah. How many times did you want to punch the third guy from the survival group? Dan, I think his name was Daniel.
No, I think Daniel. Like, the first time you hate him. Like, there is genuine hate there. But when you think about it, everything he says is justified.
Yeah.
He's just a little bit of an ego to him. That's it.
He's thinking logically. Just thinking logically isn't always the best thing. You have to think with empathy and logic.
Because every character in the crew is justified for every one of their actions.
Yeah.
There are consequences to those actions, but everyone justifiably would do that in those situations.
Yeah.
And Dan was brought in so not everyone followed Shaun. Which happens in zombies movies. There's always one leader. And Dan is the sort of antithesis of, no, he's right, but he's an idiot.
Yeah. Like, a lot of, actually, speaking of that, zombie movies, there's always, like, one leader. That kind of, that goes into, like, how films can, have messaging that may not even be intended. But, like, there will always be someone who rises to the top is, like, the kind of thing that is thought up. That's the kind of stuff that appears in propaganda for stuff like authoritarianism or
Yeah.
like other fascism. Like there will always be someone who rises to the top to lead. It's the justification for feudalism. It's the justification for authoritarianism, dictators.
Well, it's like most.
But
Actually,
I
I believe
think,
all countries leave their like the big questions that no one really wants to answer to one person.
yeah, but I think that demonstrating that there will always be dissenters, by even if it turns out that there's a kind of being assholes about it, there will always be dissenters, and there will always be some form of truth to what they say,
Hmm.
even if they don't say it in the best
The
way
nicest
for the
possible way.
situation.
Because obviously, one of the big reasons people do not like Dan is because he immediately wants to shoot Shaun's mother.
But he's completely justified in
He's
thinking that.
completely justified in doing that. And
He's an
honestly, if
asshole
he
when
had
he
just
says it, but he's completely
yeah,
justified when he
if
does
he
say
had
it.
just like shot her immediately, there's nothing. He didn't do anything wrong. He probably did the best thing in that situation. But you got to give other people time to grieve, even if it is short, because humans are an emotional set of bunch.
But I think that having him there and having him actively dissent against the group while not being overtly antagonistic against them, because he still has their best interests in mind,
Yeah.
I think that's a good play on that trope of people will always revolve around one central authority figure.
And that happens to be Shaun because he's the first person to come up with an idea. It's not that he's the best for the job.
He doesn't even have the best idea.
No, he's just one of the only people with one because everyone was just scared and panicking, which is probably what you'd do in that situation. But Shaun's scared and panicking, but he's figured out that they're zombies earlier on than most. Nick's too childish to think of something, or what he does think of just simply won't work.
And actually, Nick's idea was to go. It was Nick's idea to go to the Winchester specifically because he wanted to smoke. If they had stayed in the second floor apartment,
They would have been
they would have been
probably about
perfectly
right.
fine.
And I don't know why they thought smoking would be an issue. It's the zombie apocalypse.
It's
You smoke
because
anywhere now.
his girlfriend is quitting smoking.
Which she doesn't do. She actually goes for cheeky cigarettes, obviously keeping Shaun's cigarettes by the end of the movie that were in the bin. It's funny. It's little details that the movie does so well as well. These small, tiny little callbacks to the start of the movie. The whole Chekhov's cigarette.
Stay
No,
at
Chekhov's
second floor
actual
apartment.
gun is in there.
Oh yeah, Chekhov's gun is literally in it.
It is a literal Chekhov's gun.
Stay at second floor apartment, knock out stairs, profit. Yeah, if they had just went and gotten Shaun's parents, gone to the second floor apartment with the buzzer door, the
Yeah.
security door that you have to specifically
No one
press a
would have
button to
died.
open, they all would have been fine. Then the military comes in. It might take a bit, but they've got food in that apartment. They've
Yeah,
got
they
better
would have been
than bagged
fine for at
crisps.
least a week. If they rationed it out, probably a week would have done that. They still had electricity. Gas lines were still up. There was still all the amenities they had in there. Just
And
the
for a
TV
while,
was
they still
down.
even had TV. They would have had TV until right about when the military would come to rescue them.
Yeah, just they would have been fine. But it's a lot of these zombie movies are there is a need to escape the area that you're in for a better area, and that's why most zombie movies happen.
Yeah,
Because let's be honest, I have a lock on my door. No one's getting in.
yeah.
Why the fuck would I leave my house?
I have one door with an electronic lock that leads to the second door with a mechanical lock.
I've got everything I could need in here. I've got 2 fridges and a freezer outside that's protected by a garage. Why would I leave?
Yeah, and it also goes to show that, like, again, this goes back to Nick Frost's character, being
the door
incredibly selfish, and that being what really screws them all over.
Also, what makes their house uninhabitable is because, I mean, they do reference it twice before it happens, is the fact that they leave the door open.
Yeah,
every time, just wide open, and that's how the fucking one-handed groomsman gets in.
Yeah. He literally just walks right in because, doors open. And I
Doors open, why not?
and I liked that, like, because that's a very quick payoff, because that's also concentrated at the beginning of the movie. Like, it's a very quick payoff, so it's very easy to remember, versus something like the binned cigarettes or the throwing away the flowers.
Yeah, they're just these tiny little things. Also, the singing and the zombie singing back. Whoever thought of that scene, you deserve a medal. It's one of the funniest scenes, and it makes me giggle every time.
Anyways, that is time for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. Do you have any last minute remarks you want to end off on?
Yeah, go on, fuck it. Stay inside, lock your doors, buy a cornetto, and watch Shaun of the Dead. Which I'm assuming you've already done, because otherwise this has just been a big waste of time.
Thank you
Go
all
watch
so
the
much.
Cornetto trilogy.
Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you again. BreadFox101 on Twitch.tv, Twitter, all the other social media platforms. Thank you again so much for joining me. This has been a wonderful experience. Thank you to everyone who watched. Thank you for anyone who's watching the VOD on my YouTube. Thank you for anyone who is listening to this on Spotify or Amazon Podcasts. Not Amazon,
thank my
Apple
dad.
Podcasts. I don't know if
thank
I
my
could get it on
mum.
Amazon Pack. Anyways,
I'd like to thank anyone that's got me this award. I'd like to thank the groceries that I eat. I'd like to thank Jesus for existing. We're going to thank Buddha in that as well, because I don't like it. We're going to thank every sort of religious icon I can. Fuck it, we'll put Zeus in there. He deserves some mention.
and I also would like to invite everyone to join me next week. I don't have a guest as of this moment. That may change by next week, but we are going to be talking about Pokemon, the first movie, to coincide with the Pokemon Legends Arceus release.
It could rhyme with R and X. Maybe, if he's able.
Listen, I already put out a thing asking if anyone wants to be a guest for it, but thank you all so much for watching. Goodbye.